You don't need very many lines in there. I mean, I think the line here, if you just look at me for a minute, in the bottom left-hand rectangle, that line there is quite important. That's the edge of the riverbank.
Yeah, I've got that.
And then there's this other one here, which is the edge of the path, which also is quite important because I guess, well, it's going up to here, isn't it? Which is the eye level. But where that man is my eye level as well, isn't it? So it's going up to where there would be the horizon line in this picture will run, or the eye level is quite low in comparison to the height of the image. So the top of my ruler is where my eye level is.
Yeah.
Okay. So that line there is going up to the eye level, which is about on the line here. This one and this one.
Sorry, could you just point that out again?
Yeah. Would everybody like to listen to this? This little thing here is a man. This thing here is a man with some shorts on. And there are his legs, and there's his arms, and he's got a white top on, and there's his head. So tiny. Can you see him? Or do I need to go in closer? There he is. Look, can you see him?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I put my ruler through where his eyes would be, and I draw a line across, this one here, that's his eye level, my eye level, because I'm on a path on the same piece of ground that he's on. Okay, it's not a hill or anything like that. So the lines of perspective, the rules of lines of perspective say that they diminish at a point on the eye level. So it'd be about here, where this line, if I carried it on, would eventually arrive somewhere up here on the eye level. Okay. And this one here, the same thing. It's flatter because it's closer to the eye level. Can you see that? That line there, the edge of the path, is appearing to be flatter. Okay? Sorry, I'll go out a bit. This line here, the edge of the path, eventually will hit a point on the eye level there. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, you don't really need to know this. All you need to do is to make sure that you've drawn the angle. So this is a little bit more acute. This is a little bit flatter. Okay? Those are quite important. And then there is this line that runs sort of at the base of the trees and behind the man's legs, at the back of the benches, which is, sort of, again, a kind of horizontal line. Right? And then you've also got the fence. The fence is doing the same thing. The edge of the fence is going up to the eye level as well. Now, for Chris doesn't have any of this, she's lucky. She's got a nice, straightforward, head-on riverscape. So there's no real perspective as such in terms of paths or, well, I mean, I suppose there is something happening here. You've got the edge of the riverbank going up at an angle, haven't you, Chris?
Yes, and you've got a swan. You've got a swan or a duck or something.
Yes, down the bottom there. That's it. But you're seeing the back of the river almost as a horizontal line.
Yeah.
So it's slightly more straightforward. And you've got some trees here on the right which are virtually vertical.
Yeah.
Now, what I did earlier on this morning or this afternoon was I took, as I say, a little section. I want you to do this now if you finish your outline drawing. I think it would be useful to just examine how you achieve a copy of this using pencils. Now, I've got several pencils here. I've got a whole host of them. Some of them are Bs, some of them I've got a 6B, a 3B, a 5B, and so on, and plenty of Bs. Because I found as I was working, I needed to have a range of pencils to actually do this. And what I did, which I think we did in the class a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was quite useful for this exercise, and I'll just show you. I got my soft, I would suggest 6B, and for this bottom area here, what I did was I actually went over it, everything that I knew was going to be that bottom area. I'm going to just turn this around so you can see. And I went over it like this. Do you know what I'm going to say next? What do you think I did next?
Use the rubber.
No.
No, rub it with a paper towel.
Yes. I then went over it like this, so I made a flat tone and quite a dark tone. Can you see that? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did it with my paper towel, just going round in circles, so you flatten all the graininess of the pencil. Okay. Now you probably can't see very much in my photocopy, and I couldn't see very much either. I don't know about you, Chris, but I could vaguely see that there were some leafy, weedy shapes down the bottom right hand here. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to sit and draw each of those. So I then thought, okay, I'm going to use my rubber and I'm going to do what we did with the strip of twisted paper. We did a twisted paper exercise, and I'm going to take some of these shapes out with this. So I went over it and I sort of literally tried to, it's not very good rubber, this one. If you've got a hard rubber, it's better. I literally just pulled out some light shapes, okay?
Rather than draw them in, you're saying?
Pardon?
Rather than draw them in.
That's right, yes. I literally just got my, this hard rubber here, and I literally pulled out some shapes that look like those sort of leafy shapes down the bottom here on this photocopy. And then I think I've then got a B pencil, and I started to work into it, or you can use an even darker pencil if you want. I noticed there were bits of grass coming out the top, so I just drew some darker lines with my pencil, and very quickly and very rapidly I just sort of suggested some leafy shapes. I mean, these are sort of things that you find down on the river. I don't know what you call them, and it doesn't really matter, but I did it ever so quickly like this. So I recreated this bit down the bottom here to look like this, okay? And I went back over the bits that I'd rubbed out, and some of it I filled in with dark, and I let my pencil go where it wanted to, really, more or less. And I sort of thought, okay, this is a dark amorphous shape. You can't really see what's going on. I'm just going to make it look similar to this. Now, obviously, it doesn't finish like I've done just there. So you may have to refine that. And as I say, you do need a slightly firmer, harder rubber. And you can just get your rubber and, just sort of use it to draw with, basically, draw out the shape so that it's a little bit more like what you've got here, okay? You can even put the duck's head in if you want to, Chris. I mean, just be inventive with it. So you've got this black mass at the bottom to start off with. Can you see that? Now, obviously above it, there's the river. And I didn't want to do the whole thing, but I thought it'd be useful to examine how to create that. And if you look at the water, it's very textural. Or, you look at your path or your leaves. I'll come on to the other one in a minute. And you can use your pencil, you can do little tiny flicks to create something that looks like water. Okay. There's also, it looks like, there's bands of movement in the water. So I went round like that with my pencil, using my pencil on its side, not on its point. And then finally, I did this bit at the back in the same way as I did the foreground, but I made it darker, for this dark patch of water further back. So I just did this little rectangle or square of that section of the river. And I thought that was quite a useful thing to do, okay? Because that little, sorry, you can't see if I put my hand over it, but that little part there, oh God, sorry, the sun's making things impossible. That little part there was enough to actually show me a section of my image and give me some information on how to deal with the rest of it, okay? Now I'm going to show the others and the other picture, because I did exactly the same with the other one. And again, I just drew up a couple of small rectangles here. Okay, so this bit here is, it's based on this section down the bottom here. Okay, and I just, again, I laid a tone. You know, this is where you put the pencil over the whole area and then rub it with your paper towel. And then I lifted out these shapes with my rubber. But my husband said to me, that's not going to be very easy for them. So I tried another one up here where I actually just drew very quickly a whole load of leaves, because basically down the bottom here in the picture, you've got a whole swathe of light leaves with some dark behind it. And then you've got in the middle a kind of dark hole where it's very, very dark, the tone. Above the light leaves, there's more dark area. And there's another patch over here. And I thought, well, if I at least get that suggested, you know, very quickly, the actual trunks of the trees and the branches are not so difficult to deal with. So, has anybody got any questions? Because I've rather done that rather quickly. I can explain a little bit more carefully if you want.
The leaves look quite big in your drawings, are they?
In this one and in this one, I've enlarged the leaves, because by the time you get the dark round it, you tend to lose part of the shape.
I see. Right.
Okay. But it's a bit of a fiddle, you know, going round, pushing in the dark and pushing in the grey. But I mean, I cannot think of any other way of doing it. These are two slightly different ways. This is where I laid a tone and then lifted these shapes out with a rubber and then drew back in around with my pencil. Can you see what I've got here? If I go in a bit closer on this one, you'll be able to see. Look. Yeah.
And what did you do with the other one? You drew in the shapes first and then drew round.
This top one, I literally did this. I thought, okay, I'm looking at these leaves. They look like they're palmate. They've got 5, you know, petals or leaves like this. They're sort of this shape. And I literally just did this really quickly, almost like scribble, really. But, you know, being conscious that they are leaves. And, you know, some that I could only partly see and so on. So I got a whole, and you can do a light outline just to indicate the area that you want to cover with the light leaves. And then I went back and I filled in with little bits of dark around them. And then some of them I actually just put a tone over the whole lot, you know, just by using my pencil on its side. Because, you know, some of them stand out. They almost look white on the photocopy. And some look grey. And then the holes in between are very, very black. Now, if you could think of another way of doing it, please share it with me. But that is what I did this afternoon. I just thought I cannot think of another way of dealing with this. You know, you don't want to have to draw every single last leaf, but on the other hand, you've got to get a feeling of that, the way those leaves cluster together and overlap each other. And they do have, in this case, they are, I don't know what the trees are. Prue, can you tell me what those trees might be? You're muted.
It's either a London plane. It's a London plane. The leaves are a bit liquid ambaris, but actually I think it's a London plane.
Okay. They don't seem to have the bark, though, that a London plane has.
Well, if you go up to the top of the tree,
yeah,
And then you look at that branch that's going from left to right.
Yes.
That is mottled.
Okay.
But I agree with you, the bottom is not mottled.
No.
So, and the leaves aren't quite right.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, there were lots of London planes in Kensington when I taught up there, and they don't feel like they're the same tree to me, type of tree.
No, it's not quite right. Although London planes are very elbowy,
Yeah.
like this is.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Anyway, I encourage you all to do a little rectangle of a section, and then we'll have a look at them in a minute, because I think even just doing a little section will be helpful when you kind of do maybe the larger image, if we get round to the larger image. I mean, these took me a fair bit of time to do.
Are we doing these little sections on a separate bit of paper?
Yeah, I would suggest so, Jill. Sorry.
I don't mind.
When you say they took you a fair amount of time, just so that I can get an idea of how much to expect from my own time, how long did it take you, Sue?
Oh dear, an hour perhaps I spent on them. But remember, I've done 3, haven't I?
Yeah, that's pretty fast, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just really tried to work fast, because these are only little studies just to help with the larger image. And I also traced my thing down in that time, that hour and a half. I started about 3:30 and I finished about 4:15, 4:45. Or 3 o'clock. I started about 3 o'clock.
So where you put the tone in the bottom right-hand corner, did you do it over the whole lot, including all the white areas at the back?
No, I didn't. I just did that bit where I was going to do the leaves. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And while you're doing that, are you happy for me to move these away? Because I'm going to make a start on the bigger one. So I've got something to show you in a minute. Okay.
It's weird to be putting in a load of dark when the trees are, the leaves are light.
Yes, I'm just putting in the trunks and stuff just because I want to have the darks, and then I'll go back and do the light area. So up here, wherever there's a sort of big dark hole, I'm just putting in some tone.
Oh, God.
When you smoothed over the dark bit with tissue, did you still get some sort of lines, Mark?
I will do. I'll probably put in, like, there's a branch running through here, which I'll bring out.
Right.
I'll just bring out bits of it. I mean, the thing about trees is you really don't see the branches very clearly. They're broken up with foliage, and that's what I'm trying to, keep that sort of feeling. Okay, and I'm probably now going to start to do these sort of loosey shapes.
So you just drew those with a rubber, did you?
In this case, I'm actually drawing them in with a pencil. I'm now working on the main one. So I'm just going in with the other one. With this one here, I actually lifted them out with the rubber, and then I went back with my pencil and defined some of the shapes with a line. So look, that one. There we are, you can see it there.
Yeah.